Hey you guys, welcome back to Conversations with Allieetoile. Today is Saturday and we are already on episode 16. I cannot believe this. This is insane. I want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching these daily. That is so amazing. And without further delay, I want to introduce today's special guest. The lovely Miss Paola Hartley, who is an international principal ballerina, and she is currently one of the ballet masters at State Street Ballet in Santa Barbara. So I'm going to get her on here, and we will begin. Okay, let's see. Oh, my tripod is falling over.
Hi.
There she is. Hi, Miss Paola. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? So good to see
Good to see
you.
you too. I wish it was in person, but
Hey, what are we gonna do?
difficult times, right? Oh gosh. Well,
Difficult
anyway,
times.
I was just introducing everyone a little bit to you, who you are, and thank you so much for joining me today on Conversations with allieetoile. I am beyond excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you can see me well. I'm in my little boy's bedroom right now.
Oh no, I can see you good. For those watching and tuning in right now, can you guys give us a thumbs up if you can hear or see everything okay? Come on, guys, don't be shy. Let us know. Um, I can see and hear you, so I think that's so far so good. But anyway, I
Fantastic.
want to oh, yay, thank you guys. So I want to pass this metaphorical microphone to you and let you talk a little bit about who you are and your background and what you're doing now and all that sort of fun stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm from Chile originally. My parents are Chilean, and both of them were ballet dancers. So I pretty much grew up in the theater. They lived in Germany, which is where I was born, and then they worked in South Africa as well with Pact Ballet. And they didn't have babysitters or nannies at the time, and so I would go on tour with them a lot. So basically, I pretty much just grew up in the theater. I did not think I was going to become a dancer originally. It was more of a hobby. I
Sure.
did pretty good. I was doing well in school, and my parents didn't really want me to do that. They because they knew how much of a sacrifice was involved in the career itself, and so. But it wasn't until later that I found my passion, and I got accepted to join North Carolina School of the Arts, which now is University of North Carolina School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. And that was the pivotal point for me where I decided, okay, oh, hi, Roderick. I love you too. That was the pivotal point for me to decide to become a dancer. And then I joined Ballet de Santiago after studying at NCSA. I had wonderful teachers there that we can talk about that later, but joined Ballet de Santiago and then worked there for 6 years. I became a soloist there. And then I got offered a job to come and join Ballet Arizona. By Michael Utoff in the day, who was the director. And Michael Utoff is Chilean, so he would travel to Chile, and then he saw me dancing there and offered me a job to come and join. Somebody wants a shout out. Shout out Jaden.
Hi. No, everyone who's
Hi
been everyone who's
Jaden.
been on here has just been the most enthusiastic. It's so fun and so amazing to see that so many people are excited to watch this series.
That's wonderful. That's
But
really wonderful. So anyway, so I got the job at Ballet Arizona and I joined as a principal dancer, and then Eve Anderson took over the company. And then I worked with Eve and I was in the company for gosh, 18 years, 19 years.
talk about
And
a
I
long
also at this
career.
a long, yeah, my career was 23. I had a 23-year long career basically. Now that I think back on it, it was pretty long. I'm very happy with it. Very happy with everything I did. My last couple of years before I retired, I actually got a chance to work with Suzanne Farrell as well. So I joined Suzanne Farrell Ballet, and it was incredible working with her too. She's just, what can you say? She's just such
Sure.
a such a an amazing person, really wonderful director. She's great. I loved her. And then I retired. I still wanted to stay in touch with Ballet Arizona in a way, and so I became the company shoe manager for a while. And so I did all the point shoes for the girls. So that was nice. By then I was already pregnant because I got pregnant pretty quick after I retired, which was incredible. So I was very lucky. and I had my baby. And then 2 seasons ago, then I left. I thought, okay, it's time for me to cut the umbilical cord and move on. I have been teaching for a very long time now, maybe 20 years now that I've been teaching, outside of being a dancer. And then the opportunity came for me to become ballet master with State Street Ballet, and I am loving it. I love the company. I still live in Phoenix and I travel back and forth. Santa Barbara's not very far for me. So it works out well that I can go sporadically and work with a company on certain productions.
Sure.
It's been fantastic. I love the opportunity, yeah, to work with them.
Amazing, amazing. And I am beyond excited because, it's not very often that you get a dancer who has gone through the entire training track, having an amazing professional career, and is now in a position of artistic leadership. So I think that that is something very unique, and I'm beyond excited to touch on that today amongst many other topics. So I want to
Sure.
encourage everyone who's watching this right now and joining us, feel free to send in questions and comments as we're going through. And of course, we will try to answer and do our best to get to every single one of you guys. But yeah, let's begin. So
Sure.
I want to start a little bit about, there's so much I want to talk about, but the first thing is obviously someone wrote in, and I think it's quite funny. They're like, how did Allie and Paola meet? So I think, no, it's a fair question. I mean, because
It is a fair
a
question.
lot of the guests I've had on here, like I've known or I've grown up with or different things. So short and sweet answer, Miss Paola was one of the first ballet teachers I had in my life. I was
Yes.
probably, I want to
Nine?
say 9 or 10, maybe just turning 11 when she first saw me. And
Yep.
this was at just a local studio in Arizona. And there was a workshop, and my parents signed me up and I wanted to go. And I think that's how I first met you. And you were one of the first people who kind of told me, okay, I think that if you wanted to do this, you could have a shot. And so we
Yep.
just started training together from there on out. And you were one of the first people who like really gave me that early look at pre-professional training, which was so amazing.
I did not know that. So that's
Yeah,
great.
truly, truly. I
I'm
mean,
glad to hear that.
and of course it was interesting because, I also, growing up in Arizona, I went to an art school called Arizona School for the Arts, and we did ballet
Uh-huh.
classes at Ballet Arizona. And I was always I don't want to say ill behaved child, but I was the one that would, as soon as my class was over, I would sneak out into the company hallway and somehow make my way into the company rehearsals and just sit there and watch. And I started watching the company, and I started watching Paola rehearse and dance and everything. And so, yeah, that was kind of how that all came to be. Funny story. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Who knew?
amazing.
Who
Who,
knew?
who knew, right? So,
Yes. I've been following your career, and I've been following what you've been doing and how you've been,
oh,
it always makes a teacher feel with pride when you see somebody that you trained go into the professional world and see that they're doing well. And so it's I just, it just fills my heart and my soul. It makes me very happy.
oh, well, thank you. No, I mean, I feel honored to have been able to grow up and be surrounded by amazing artists like yourself. So the feeling is beyond mutual. So I want to start diving into our conversation topics today. And the first one being is just, obviously, I want to talk a little bit about your involvement with State Street Ballet. I have a lot of friends and colleagues who I know who have danced there previously and currently,
Okay.
and they always tell me the most amazing things about it. But I would love to get your opinion. Obviously, the current nature of the world right now is something beyond devastating. And
Yes.
companies' doors are shut for you know, an unknown quantity of time. And so I wanted
Yeah.
to have your thoughts. What can you tell us about what State Street Ballet is doing? And then, of course, obviously, how does this affect dancers?
Yeah, yes, of course. So State Street Ballet is a company that's been around for 25 years. And Rodney Gustafson is the director with William Solo right now.
Mm-hmm.
But Rodney created the company, and Rodney used to be a dancer with ABT. And Rodney is pretty incredible, I would say, because he studied business administration as well. So he for this whole time that he's been an artistic director, he's actually also been the executive director as well. So
Sure.
he's handled the finances and the artistic side,
Wow.
and I think that's pretty incredible for a company, and the company has stayed around this long. It's a company that is more well known for its touring. They tour quite a bit. They go around very much. They have different places that they go to for every one of their productions. Um, and they are it's a very varied company because they do classic things, but they do a lot of contemporary things as well. And so I love the diversity of the dancers, because you have some dancers that looks um, you have dancers that they're all taller, and then the other ones that are more stockier and short, so it's just like, I love that there's a huge variety of
Sure.
bodies and shapes in that company. Some are stronger classically and some are stronger contemporary wise, and it just makes a really nice blend. And they're all and it feels very much like a family, which most ballet companies do, but they are smaller. They're a very tight knit group of people, and you really do get that sense that they're quite a family there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's amazing. I think that's one of the biggest things that anyone who's hoping to be in a company can look for, is having a nurturing and a healthy environment. And it sounds like
Yeah.
that is the case over there, which is so wonderful. So I want to discuss a little bit, obviously career. You are someone who has had a full career, and a very exciting and fulfilling one at that. And I'm sure many people who are watching this now, who will be watching this later on my YouTube, they are in a position right now, much like myself, where we're wondering when we're going to be getting back to that career, because
Yeah.
this isn't really a break that's been chosen. It's not like we've
Right.
been injured and we have to take the time off, or we chose a personal time to leave. This is something that kind of just happened, and all of us are facing it on a day-to-day basis. So what advice can you talk about, or uh, what coping strategies could you give to dancers or students who are struggling getting through this time frame?
It's a very hard, and it's a good question. It's a hard question to answer as well. I I try to see the positive in all of the situations that are happening. You know, I try to see the positive in the fact that we have to stay home and spend more family time, and be with one another, and start connecting more with the people that you realize that maybe you didn't talk so much on the phone, or do this kind of interaction like a FaceTime,
Sure.
and that you just texted, and then now you're doing more of a one, and you want to see people's faces, and you want to see the expressions and talk to them more. Um, so having said that, I try to look at the positive for the dancers in the world right now. I do think that dancers work so hard, you know, and they push their bodies to such a limit that maybe this is, in a way, a good break for everyone, to just let your bodies heal and relax. Nonetheless, I love that you can still take classes online, and that people are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, yes, keep on moving. It's not the same as rehearsing all day long,
Oh,
right?
sure,
It's
yeah.
just an hour or an hour and a half. So you're still moving your body, but I think dancers have to kind of take this opportunity to just think of it as, my body needs to recover from all the pounding I've been giving it for so long, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and Having said that, I guess I want to recap a little bit on my own experience as a dancer, because people sometimes, well, I've gotten a lot of questions as, how is it that I lasted so long, that I had such a long career? Because 23 years is pretty long.
It is. It
Um,
definitely is.
yeah, I started in 93 and I retired in 2015. So yeah, it's a long career. And honestly, I can't say good technique, because everybody around there's people with good technique. So it's not that. I can't say genetics, because people out there have good genetics. So it's not that. I personally, and this is just a very personal thing, when the season was over and we were done, I was done.
Mm-hmm.
I took my break. I did nothing. I didn't stretch. I didn't exercise. I didn't dance. I went to the beach, and I spent the summer in the beach and just chilled and relaxed, and like recharged my batteries for the next season. Now, was that helpful for me? Maybe. Maybe not everybody is the same way, but I do think that people in general, not just ballet dancers, need some time to recharge their batteries and to rest and to let their bodies heal. And so maybe that helped me have such a long career that I would just literally do nothing. And here, and it could be a cultural thing too, you know, because I'm not American. I am now. I'm a citizen now, but came from Chile. And in Chile, back in the day, summer intensives was nothing that existed. You know, you didn't
Yeah.
have summer intensives like here. So here, dancers work the whole year round, and then summer comes and they go to summer intensive.
Yep.
So when they're students, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they're professionals, they go and they take class at summer intensives and they keep going. And so I feel that a lot of dancers in the world, and I could be wrong, don't take the time off, don't take enough time to heal. So maybe this is, in a way, this whole pandemic, which is really awful, maybe this is a good way for people to just kind of heal their bodies.
Decompress a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's an amazing outlook. Again, the only one who's going to take care of you is you, because only you
It's
can
you.
determine your own
Yeah.
needs and what you have to do to be successful. But I think it's amazing because I think there's a bit of a misconception that dancers have to keep going, that dancers
Yeah.
have to keep pushing themselves. And in some regards, it is very much true. I mean, given
Yeah.
normal circumstances, but we're not in normal circumstances at this moment in
Hmm.
time. And I think it's
No.
important to realize that these outside influences do affect how we continue to perform and how we continue to manage
Yeah.
what we're doing. So I think I love hearing that, and I think it's so healthy because oftentimes students or teachers and parents can help or not necessarily help a child or a student with the mindset of just this go 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 attitude, which is needed more oftentimes than not when we
Yes.
are training and growing and
Yeah.
progressing in this art form. So I love hearing that.
Sure.
Now I want to lead into, I think this is another, someone wrote this in and I want to be able to highlight this. Obviously you mentioned you had a very long career. I mean, that's incredible, and that's the kind of career that we all, I think, aspire towards, being able to dance around the world
Yes.
at a very high level, and then being able to, again, inspire by teaching, and now what you're doing as at an artistic level. I think it's incredible. So the question is, how has your mindset about ballet? I mean, this is a very generalized question, but how has your mindset evolved as you have evolved from student to professional to a ballet master? Because
Hmm.
obviously it's interesting to think, as a student, I think they're getting at this from the standpoint of when you're a student, you're very focused, and if you go to competitions or if you go to certain events, you're always, you're looking around and trying to absorb and grow and be better. And then at a professional level, of course, you're doing the same thing, but it's a little bit more of the stakes are elevated simply because you are in a room with 20, 30, 40 other people who want to do the exact same thing as you. So the competitive element only increases. And you're at the mercy of your artistic staff. And now you're in a position where you're kind of
The
determining
artistic tip.
what these dancers will do. So I mean, that's kind of how I'm understanding this question. How has your mindset changed and evolved as you've gone through these different stages in your career?
It's a very good question, and it's well, ballet has always been a passion, no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ever since I was a little girl, it was a passion for me to watch it, to watch my parents dancing. I was always full of joy watching them dancing.
Sure.
Um, it was a passion for me to do it, to perform. Being on stage was having that performance experience was incredible. Um, so the passion part never left. The passion part has always been there. Um, I think your mind changes as you change, as you grow up, as you start evolving as a person, as a human being, and as a professional.
Sure.
Um, so back in the day when I was a student, it was like I can't wait to do Giselle and to do Don Q and Swan Lake and the Pas de Quatre and this and that and and just every new ballet that would happen, every new choreographer that you would meet, it was like this excitement. Oh, this is so great, and just then as the years go by, you start getting used to that. You start getting used to that. Oh, now you're going to do a Twyla Tharp piece. And it's like, oh, it's great. But you're like, okay, your company is providing these amazing Jerome Robbins, George Balanchine. And so that excitement, I don't say it goes away, but it levels down a little bit more. You start concentrating more on, okay, well now I need to do this well. Now I need to, these choreographers and these ballets are so
Yeah.
beautiful that now I have to concentrate on executing them and enjoying them, but also making sure that the audience enjoys them too. Um, and then as towards the very end, before I retired, I was so happy with what I had already done. Oh, thank you. Huge fan. I'm sure it's Allie and not me. Can you hear that, by the way? Did you just hear that noise, by the
A
way?
buzz, like a
Um,
buzzing?
like a little buzz?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, I think I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I'm
Oh,
so sorry.
that's okay.
Do you know, do you know if I could do that while I'm talking to you? Because that would be,
It's
no? Are you
called
sure?
it's called life and we roll with it and you're an
I
important
I
person
thought
to
about it.
somebody.
It's still early in Arizona, guys. It's only 8 o'clock over here. But I thought about it right before doing the putting it on, and I
No, no,
completely
that's
forgot. I'm so
okay. Don't worry
sorry.
about it. We're not on Fox News or CNN or something like that and it's all good.
So anyways, after I retired, my mindset, I didn't want to go to the theater. And I don't know if this happens to all the dancers that retire or not. I had a very hard time going to see a ballet performance. And
Really?
yes, yeah, it took me a long time actually to go back to see a show at Ballet Arizona. Um, and I honestly don't know what it was. I think it was an accumulation of things. I think for me, what happened was I retired, I had a baby, and my father passed away. All of those happened within less than a year, and it was a lot of change, too much change for me to handle in a way. Um, so yeah, it was very hard for me to go back and watch a performance for a while. Um, but then when I got this opportunity to work with State Street Ballet, and I went there and I started working them and coaching them. And then we went to the theater. Something very different happened. What happened was I became this mama, like this proud mama that I just loved watching them, and I felt so proud of their accomplishments and how
Sure.
well they did and how well they listened to the corrections and how they danced together as a team, that it became more like a proud parent watching their children on stage. And that's when it became easier for me to go to the theater again and watch ballet, thanks to that. And now I can go to Ballet Arizona because I have a different perspective. And I don't see them as a ballet master. I go and I just enjoy the show and I go, oh, they're doing great. I try not to be critical because that's what's the point? You want to enjoy. So,
Sure.
um, so when I'm at State Street and I see them on stage, I feel very proud of them. I feel very accomplished that we all, the whole team, because I'm not the only ballet master, that the whole team did their work and that they did really well. And so I
Absolutely.
guess I guess your mindset changes as you evolve as a person, as you age, and as it goes. So it's just a natural course, I would say. Hopefully that explains a little
Definitely.
bit.
No, I got it for sure. And I think it's interesting. I want to go back a little bit because you mentioned the word when you're watching a performance now, it's not so much about criticizing as it is supporting. I think
Hmm.
that's so interesting to hear coming from the perspective of an authority figure because I think there's a big common misconception that when you're performing like in a company and most often times than not you're going to have an artistic director or a ballet master or some senior member of staff watching at least one of them watching every show. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I feel that many dancers feel a little bit nervous or a little bit tentative or anxious when they're performing in front of their bosses because obviously you want to do a good job, obviously you want to
Mhm.
perform well, but I think that there's a bit of this mindset that they're watching, and this is going to determine how well I do in the company. You know, how well I did on this one show is going to affect what they think of me for the next rep. And I love that the mindset you just provided is it's not about criticizing, because that's what we do every day in a studio. We look in
Right.
mirrors and we stand in front of amazing former dancers such as yourself, people who have been in this industry for ages, and we're looking on ways to, I mean, criticize is a strong word, but we're looking at things that need improvement all day
Yeah.
long. And I think it's
Yeah.
important to be able to separate the working and critiquing and finessing of what we do in the studio and then what we do on stage, because again, the majority of our audiences are not educated the way that we are. They don't know what it
Right.
means to land fifth. They don't know what it means to, pull in from a pirouette and finish on,
They get the feeling.
absolutely.
They get whether you're emoting an emotion and a feeling, and whether you're transmitting what needs to be transmitted.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
important, I love it personally. I'm someone who loves getting corrections. I'm someone who loves being told from a ballet master or my artistic director, Allie, let's work on this. Allie, let's look at that, because I want to learn. I want to be able to continue to be the best version of myself that I can be. But I think it's
Yeah.
important also that you have that individual being a figure of support rather than a figure to tear you down and make you feel less of a dancer. So I love that. And I think, it leads into my next question, which is, how do you feel about having insecurities as a student and as a professional? How has that affected you, and have you had any insecurities yourself?
Um, yes, you always have insecurities, it's going to happen. Um, how do I feel about insecurities? I think dancers in general are very sensitive people.
Sure.
Um, that you work so hard to get a compliment, and when you don't get the compliment, it can affect you tremendously. So how did I work my insecurities? I I had a great teacher named Melissa Hayden, and she was at North Carolina School of the Arts. And if you know who Melissa Hayden was, she was one of George Balanchine's muses. Incredible dancer, amazing human being, but an extremely hard teacher, like super, super hard. And just, she made everybody cry. It was just one of those things that the students, and you never knew what mood she would be in when you would go in class.
Mm-hmm.
And and I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to be one of those who cries. I'm not going to let her put me down.
Sure.
And I took it as I'm just going to go in there, do the class, learn from her, and not let her affect me. And I would cry outside, but I
Mm-hmm.
never did it in the I never did it in the studio. I never cried in the studio in front of her, because it was something that I proposed to myself just because I had heard so many stories. Um, so I think that in a way made me a little bit stronger in a sense to deal with other people as well.
Yeah.
but it was but what I'm trying to say is that I learned there that um and it wasn't like she wasn't mean. I mean, yes, she was mean. She could say certain things, but outside, I met her as a human being outside. And outside, she was, again, like a mother figure to all the students, especially the foreign students. She
Yeah.
would have them over for Thanksgiving and dinner, people that couldn't go for Christmas, people that couldn't go home. She
Sure.
would have them over and cook dinner for them. And she was the most amazing person. And that's how her and I became extremely close. And we remained in touch for many years after I left NCSA. We still talked on the phone. We still exchanged letters. I went to visit her. Um, and so this relationship happened where I learned that you can be tough on dancers. Um, and some dancers are going to take it, and some dancers are not going to take it. And it's kind of like a natural selection. That's why only a few become ballet dancers, because it does take people, even though we're sensitive, it takes strong personalities to be able to deal with the criticism and to be able to
Yeah,
deal
for
with that.
sure.
So our insecurities, can come because of criticisms, but they can also just become because you're not getting roles, or because you're not, and sometimes it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes it has nothing to do with who you are as a dancer. Sometimes it has to do with whatever they're looking for in that particular performance, whether they want some kind of look or whether they want certain specific dancers. And so what I tell my students now when they go and audition for different summer programs or companies, and I say, if you don't get in, it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take it down on yourself that you're the bad dancer. It's just that you're not exactly what they're looking for at the time.
Sure.
Um, because that can create a lot of insecurities.
And
Going to audition
there's a
and
lot
not
of
getting and not
rejection.
getting in. Right. So I always tell them just keep going. Now, if you've gone at it for a year and a half or two and nobody's, then we have to talk, then there has to be a conversation. But I think that's one of those things that, we have to kind of accept that, and try to think to ourselves that it's not us. It really is. This is such a, it's not a very objective, it's a subjective art, where it
Yeah,
depends on one person's taste. So the one director that's on top of that company, that director has a view in mind, has something in mind, and they're the ones that are going to decide what they want for their company. And if you're not that, that does not mean that you are not worth as a dancer,
for sure.
So,
No, it's so interesting. I
um,
love being able to hear your perspective because I've been trying to ask very similar questions to all of the guests I've had on here to try and get as many perspectives as I can. But I want to start introducing a few new topics and a few new questions, and one that was sent in to me that I think is really, really interesting, and it talks about fulfillment. Because as we know, not every company, and I'm willing to go out on a limb and just say in general, it goes without saying that being a ballet dancer is not the most lucrative career if you want to be someone
it's true.
with a huge bank account. It's not going to be coming
Right.
from a ballet career, unfortunately.
Right.
Very few are able to really get that elite level. Um,
Yeah.
and usually it comes just from stepping out of the ballet studio and doing things outside of what we do on stage. So,
Right.
but back to the question, fulfillment. We do this because it fulfills that love, that passion. And it's interesting because this question basically asks, you, for example, were a principal dancer, and for many, that's the goal, to be a principal dancer in a major notable company. You were
Hmm.
dancing principal roles with not one, not two, but three companies. That's an amazing, amazing feat that I think, again, is something that dancers around the globe aspire to be able to do. And so
Hmm.
the reality is, though, there are, of course, getting into a company is a major feat in itself, and that should be an exciting time to celebrate. I did, quote, I made it into a company. But for some dancers, being in the corps de ballet is, I don't want to say unfortunately because it's an amazing, to be a part of the corps de ballet is an amazing thing. But unfortunately, for some dancers who wanted to go further but did not, that's their reality, is to have a career in the corps. And so when we talk about fulfillment, some people might look at that and say, I would give anything to be in the corps de ballet. I would give anything to just be in this company and be able to dance as long as I can. And then there's
Right.
other people with the mindset of corps de ballet is not good enough. I have to be a principal or else it's not good enough. It's not what I
Right.
want. So again, this is a very delicate topic, but I want to talk about fulfillment. Obviously you were a principal dancer and you were able to achieve that pinnacle of your career, but what advice or what wisdom could you talk about to dancers who maybe are in a position where they're thinking, this isn't a company where I'm really getting opportunities in, or I don't know how much further I can take this and it's not making me happy just sitting in the same place.
Right. I think I think you have to consider um, your choices. Once you're in a company, right? Some dancers aspire to be in a major company of a renowned company like New York City Ballet, ABT, names, big names,
Sure.
right? Now, I think when you decide that, you have to have in perspective that you are going into a major company where the competition level is extremely high,
For sure.
right? So, hola Ceci, where it's extremely high. So when you join a company like that, like ABT, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to be a core, and you start finding that you're getting stuck there and you're not getting to where you want to be, then you probably have to look at the options of maybe looking into a smaller company, because there are other companies out there that are much smaller and will give more opportunity to the dancers because they're small, so they dance more. So um, so there has to be I think it's okay to be ambitious, but at some point reality has to kind you have to kind of do an introspective on yourself of where you are at the time,
Sure.
and go, well, is this something that I want to be in? Do I want to stay forever in a huge company that has such a prestige, and not advance, and but at least say that I danced there? Or do I want to maybe try, and go to some place where the company might be a little bit smaller, but that the opportunities might be a little bit bigger?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, you know, in a way that kind of happened to me. I mean, it kind of happened to me. I was already a soloist at Ballet de Santiago when I left. But I left not because I was unhappy there, because we were doing amazing production. They still do. Like, the company's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I left because I always wanted to come back and work in the States.
Okay, sure.
I fell in love with United States as a country when I went to NCSA. And so my passion, I wanted to just get here. It didn't matter what company, I didn't have that ambition of I want to go to a bigger company. I just wanted to come here.
Sure.
And I landed in Ballet, Arizona, which at the time when I got here, it was not as big as it is now. It
Mm-hmm.
was the budget was not big. We didn't perform at the big theaters. It was extremely different. But I got to a company where there were less dancers. We had at least 45, 50 dancers at Ballet de Santiago. And I came to a company that there was like 26, 27, maybe 30 at the most. But we all did everything. And
Sure.
like, it was a lot of they still had two casts of everything. So everybody got to do, and the repertoire was very different. In Chile I did all the classics. Here it was more contemporary, more mixed. I got exposed to balancing more here because I
Sure.
didn't in Chile, and things like that. So, and then the company started growing, and then fortunately, I was at the top. I was one of the principal dancers. And so but I came to a company that was extremely different than Ballet de Santiago. I came to a smaller company, very different experience, and now it's a big company.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I think is that you have to really think about, of course, where you want to be and how you want to get there. If you want to be in a huge company and become a soloist, maybe you can have two paths. Maybe your path could be start in a smaller company, get there, and then go audition
Make a
as
lateral
somebody,
move. Yeah.
right, like a lateral move. Or you can go and start from zero and pull and push your way up. But if you get stuck halfway, then consider the options of maybe going somewhere else. Um, because in reality, what dancers want to do is dance.
For sure.
And if that's not going to make you happy, then you have to consider other options. If you're not going to be happy being in a big company, then look at something else that might fulfill that desire to dance and perform more.
Definitely,
There are
no.
so many companies, yeah, there's so many companies out there now, so many, that the options are limitless now, and that's the beauty of it, that you really can go anywhere, hopefully,
For sure,
when
for
this is over.
sure. Yes, when this is over. Emphasis in that, hopefully sooner rather than later as well. And I want to tie this into, you know, it's evident, from the minute you decide you want to do this professionally, from the minute you decide that this is where I want to go with my life. It's important, and I've pointed this out in several other conversations. ballet is not your 9 to 5 job. It's just not. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it
something that
is.
comes home with us. It's something that we wake
Yeah,
up to. What we do at home affects the next day.
yeah.
That's just the reality of it, unfortunately. It's the same with many other careers, but I think that this one takes it just a little bit, not to negatively, you know, comment on other careers, but just because I'm living this one right now, I think that it's important to realize, like, we are not normal. It's not your normal, typical 9 to 5
Mm-mm.
type thing. So
No.
I want to talk about how important it is to have a life outside of ballet, because this is something, and I'm calling this the burnout factor. I think we all experience this at least once, potentially even more than one time within our careers and in our lives as well. I've experienced this personally, where I'm training so hard, I was traveling so much, barely keeping up with my online school just because the workload was just so high, where it gets to this point where I'm up to here and I'm like, I need it, like I can barely breathe, I need a break, and you get burnt out, you lose the
Mm-hmm.
motivation, you don't really want to go into the studio, and you literally just it's work to get to work. And I think for me, obviously the minute I felt that was the minute I started going downhill mentally, because it became laborious, it became a task, it became something like a responsibility rather than a passion. And again, this is sometimes where people have had to take a step back and reflect. Is ballet
Mm-hmm.
really for me? Is this the career I want? And other times it's just, again, you need to take a step back, take a breather, hit the reset button, and go back in with a new mindset. Has this ever been something that you experienced, this burnout? And then I want to talk a little bit about you being a teacher and being a ballet master. When this type of situation arises in a student of yours, or even a professional, because we struggle from time to time, we all grow
Mm-hmm.
and we all deal with life as it comes. How do you
Mm-hmm.
navigate this, or what advice can you share about overcoming the burnout and how to healthfully maintain a distance between ballet and, your life? Because while I am Allie the ballerina and it's a major part of my life, it doesn't define me, and there's so much outside of this that makes
Yeah.
me a human, and that's what I contribute to what I do on stage.
I think a very important factor when dancers start feeling this way is to communicate.
Sure.
Um, I think that, and again, I'll just talk about my personal experience. When my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, it was extremely hard for me because she was in Chile and I was here.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of started focusing on the job and just going in work and not dealing with it. But it got to the point where I started looking very unhealthy. I mean, I lost so much weight and I didn't even know it. I wasn't thinking about it. It was just the stress, the agony of what was happening. And I must say, Ebe was extremely understanding. He was incredible uh, in that respect. Where I went to him and I talked to him. And I said, my mom is dying. My dad called me and he wants me to go home. And he said, go. He said, you have to go.
Wow.
And so I think that sometimes dancers in general, we do tend to keep things inside and we don't communicate and we don't tell, and sometimes the fear of talking to somebody up there like a ballet master or a director, just because out of respect or things like that. I do think that every director has a human side, and that sometimes communicating and letting them know how you're feeling at the moment could come to a solution where they can say, well, maybe you need to take some time off, or maybe they say, what are the where a communication could be better than keeping it inside.
For sure.
Um, so I think, does everybody go through that? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've had bad days for sure. I remember having bad days where I didn't want to go in there. I didn't even want to do a plie. and you just go through it. You just go through the day and you come home, you're like, oh God. Um, but I think talking about it with the director, with the teachers, and letting them know, letting them a little bit into your personal life, sometimes can give them also, because they can also think, what is wrong with this dancer? They're not doing anything. They're not coming into class. She's barely pointing her feet. And then they can think this totally mistaken concept, and then you can get fired, or you don't get the roles, or you don't, and because there's no communication. So I think it's crucial to communicate. I think it's important for a dancer to come and say, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. I don't know what's happening with my life, blah, 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 whatever it is. Um, that there has to be a communication. I think most importantly for every dancer, I think communication is key.
Absolutely. And I want to tag on to that, talking to someone in an authoritative or a position of authority, you mentioned it can be nerve wracking or it can be
Oh yeah.
a little bit intimidating. I'm fortunate that I have an amazing relationship with my artistic staff where I can talk about what I did on the weekend with them. It's lovely, but not everyone has that comfort. Not everyone maybe
Right.
has the confidence or the ability to feel comfortable to go and talk about these things. And I
Yeah.
totally get that. We're all different people, we're all different personalities and mindsets. But what advice, again, could you give about, or what could you talk about, how do you talk to someone? Because again, I'm getting more people, I've got my computer next to me and more people are writing in, I'm scared to talk to my teacher, I'm scared to talk to my AD, you know, and again,
Okay.
I think it comes from, again, like yeah, people are saying like respect and all that, like they want to be respectful, they don't want to be a burden, they don't want to be reprimanded, that's the big key word, they don't want to be reprimanded, because again, if we need to take time off for something other than the physical part, rolled my ankle, busted
Yeah.
my whatever, it can look like, oh, well, that's not a really reliable dancer, or this student isn't going to make it because if they can't handle
Yeah.
this, how are they going to survive in a professional atmosphere? So what can you talk to about on that level?
It is unfortunate that there are certain people out there that maybe with unknowingly can give the wrong response to a student, and
Mm-hmm.
that can cause some some damage. I would say to students, again, communication is important. First, I think first and foremost, I would say talk to your parents, you know. I
Mm-hmm.
would say first and foremost, talk to your parents, because nobody's going to understand you more than your parents or love you. There's that unconditional love that if you go to your parents and say, this is how I'm feeling, I don't know how to talk to my teacher, I don't know how to say. And obviously some students don't want their parents to be involved and would hate for their parents to be like, I'm going to talk to your teacher. Like, no, 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 no. But sometimes that is a way to go too. Sometimes having the parents involved and going and talking to the teacher is a way to go. But if you're feeling so nervous to talk to your teacher, I would say write things down. Write down what you want to say to your teacher. Read it out loud. See how it sounds. Practice it, because sometimes, yes, talking to somebody that's in an authority position can be intimidating and can be really
Sure.
hard. I would say prepare yourself. Prepare yourself to what you want to say, and go in with the expectation that they could say something that you totally don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hard part, is that, or they could go the other way where they're extremely understanding and supportive, and I would say the majority of them will be that way. But if you just happen to have that tiny percentage that maybe just says you're going to be fine, keep going, and that maybe is not listening to you, but they're just saying don't worry, you're okay, but they're actually not hearing what you're saying, don't be discouraged.
For sure, for
um
sure. Yeah, no, I think it's
so
important to be able to
yeah.
at least make the effort of trying. I
Right.
I think that mental health is a big stereotype in the world and a big stigma within the ballet career, that it makes you weak. It makes you less of a dancer, less of a person because you're struggling. I think it takes immense strength and immense courage to be able to voice those things. I personally have gone through that before I joined Birmingham Royal Ballet. I'd had to take an entire season off of ballet. Um,
Oh.
Part of it was my own decision, and part of it was I had a really challenging incident when I was leaving Houston Ballet, and I had to prioritize my health. I was in a hospital, unfortunately, fighting for my life at one point because of the severity of the situation I was in. But this isn't something that, again, is easy to talk about. People can so easily go on social media and look and see pictures. Wow, this girl is winning competitions, or this girl just got hired here, or this boy, whoever it may be.
Yeah.
It's so easy to look and see through pictures and filters and screens, like, wow, this person's got it going on. And that's not always the case. Everyone always has little internal battles that we fight,
Yeah.
or little hiccups in life that we have to go through. And I think it's important that we all need to understand, and if I could be artistic director of all of the companies for a day, I think it would be important to communicate to their dancers, professionals or students, whomever, that if you're
The door is open.
The door is open, yeah. And when you have a position of power, I think that it's so important to be able to communicate and say, of course I want to push you, of course I want to motivate you to be the best dancer you can be, but I also want to build you as a person. Because you can't do anything on stage if you're not okay here, and body and health permitted as well. But this is a huge part of what we do, and so I want to tie that in again. It's such a delicate topic, and again, I've got so many people writing in right now. I want to talk more about this. But I don't want us to run out of time, so we're gonna have to move on to the next topic, and that is, again, stereotypes and stigmas in the ballet world.
Yes.
Hopefully, when we are all out of this terrible situation with coronavirus and healthy and able to return to our normal performing and working schedules, hopefully people are going to be able to take a step back and really appreciate a lot more of what we do and why we do it. Mm-hmm. But what is one thing that you would love to see change in the ballet world? And again, this can be a stereotype, this could be a stigma, this could just be an environmental factor within the working dynamics of schools and companies, whatever you think.
It's getting a lot better lately, but I would love for it to just be one of those art forms that is more available and accessible to everyone.
Sure.
And I feel like this whole pandemic has, in a way, granted people the ability to take class with people that they would never take class with.
Yeah, for sure.
There's these online YouTube classes of famous people and famous ballet masters and things like that, and they're just so it almost seems like the availability now is even bigger because of this. But what I'm talking about is the availability for audience members. There are so many children out there and families that don't have the income, and ballet, I think, is still considered a very elite art
for
form.
Sure, yeah.
And then I'm saying it's improving because I do see a lot of improvement, but I still think that a lot of people sometimes are scared, or they think, I can't afford to go, or no, it's not something that I can go and see and go and look at. And and so if there was something that I would want to change, would be that people get to know and realize that we want to dance for everybody.
Yeah,
we want
absolutely.
everybody to see us, and that we want everybody to be able to come to the theater and enjoy a show. So that would be it for me. That it's more available for everyone.
For sure. No, I think it's amazing because I'm really looking forward to this. I have a few non-ballet related individuals who are going to be coming on this series with me, one of them being in the medical field right now. And it's so interesting because ballet, and I'm going to just umbrella category as the arts. Obviously it's not the thing that's going to cure coronavirus, any pandemic, but art in itself has such a healing nature to it.
Yeah.
Arts are able to provide comfort and inspiration and excitement. Maybe even we can call it an escape from reality for however long the show is, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, if it's Swan Lake you're really in for an escape. But
Allie, sorry, Francois just joined, and Francois is a principal dancer with State Street Ballet.
I know,
Hi,
Francois. Hi, friend.
Oh, you know
Absolutely,
from
my Cuban family. Hello there. But no, I mean it's so true. Like, this is, oh gosh, where were we? Yeah, art has
Sorry,
the,
yes.
no, 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 it's okay. Art has the
The
ability to
ability to
heal.
heal.
Art has the ability to
Yeah.
move people in ways and give them that sense of joy or fulfillment or just absolute amazement for however long that may be. And I think it's important that, yeah, I would love to go out on a limb and say that regardless of the company you're in, I mean, some more so than others, but a majority of a dancer's career is often spent in a studio. Not a lot of
Hmm.
companies have as many performing opportunities as some other bigger companies do. And,
Yeah. You work for so long for one show or for two
yeah,
shows. Yeah. Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that I'm in a company right now and before when I was at Houston Ballet where we were able to get out there and do so much, but it definitely, I think that that is something that having the accessibility, having the availability and the resources to be able to do what we do on a grander scale and have more support from the public is something that we can all hope. I mean, and especially
Yeah.
coming out of this, I hope that that's something that people aren't going to lose because, there's fears of being, social distancing, mass crowds in theaters and all that.
Right.
So, hope permitted, health permitted, I'm confident that this will be something that a lot of people will be interested in. And of course, I know dancers are going to be shouting from the rooftops about it as well. So,
Yeah, for
well,
sure. For
Paula,
sure.
I wanted to thank you so much for being part of this today. Before we run out of time, I wanted to let everyone know who's watching this live and who's going to see this later. This video will be available on my YouTube in just a few short days, and I will be able to share that link with all of you guys who might not have been able to see all of this. But yeah, Miss Paola, thank you so much, not only for being such a valuable resource in my life, but thank you for being an amazing mentor, an amazing teacher, an amazing influencer to everyone who's going to be able to watch this video at some point. I so value your
I really
knowledge.
appreciate that. That means a lot to me, Allie. Thank you. And thank you so much for thinking of me to join you with us. I'm happy that hopefully I can give some insight to people and young dancers out there and that I can help in any way. I'm happy to do this and I wish you much success and tons of luck. And I love that you're doing this for the dance world and the dance community. So I applaud you as
Thank
well.
you.
And thank you. Thank you for having me in your show.
Absolutely. No, well, thank you to everyone who's joined us for a conversation with allieetoile. Please stay tuned. All the details on allieetoile.com for all of the guest speakers coming next week. And of course, if you want to learn more about the lovely Miss Paola Hartley, if you go on the news section, you will be able to find the artist profile feature and you can learn more about Paola and the State Street Ballet on there. All right. Wow, this is so weird. I feel so awkward doing this stuff. It's like, who does this for you? I guess I'm doing this. Okay. Paola, thank you so
Yep.
much for joining us. Please, I wish you and your loved ones continued safety and health in this crazy time. And to everyone out there as well, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you. Yes. Everybody take care. Be safe.